Hello everyone, this is your heart message of the week, and I wanted to share a little bit about emotional triggers, emotional processing, and I'm going to share with you an example of my own experience with this so that you can understand a little bit better. So firstly, if you are getting triggered emotionally, then that to me is a clear indication that you have deep emotional wounds. That's number one. Number two, you have to understand that the emotion that you feel when you're being triggered, so let's say anger, but it can also be fear or whatever it is, that is not the causal emotion. Very often, that is the top layer, not very often, it is the top layer of emotion, and it's the emotion that you use to avoid feeling the actual causal emotion, and it's the emotion that you use to protect the actual wound. Having said that, even though it's not the causal emotion, in terms of changing that pattern, you will have to feel it and own it in order for you to sort of go through the emotional layers, for you to actually access the causal emotion or the core. So I'll give you an example, and please don't try this at home. This is a little bit crazy. But I felt very confident in myself, and I had done so much emotional processing. I was pretty comfortable in doing this in the moment. Anyway, so I was getting really triggered while I was driving, especially in particular with tailgaters. So, people that drive and they're like 2 centimeters away from your car, flashing you and all of that, and that was really triggering me. And I was getting more and more angry, and it started to happen more and more often, right? As you do, if you don't process something, then it just gets worse. And I felt so justified in my anger that I didn't want to feel the causal emotion. I didn't want to process the core, because to me, this is me justifying. The way they're driving is not safe. They're not respecting or valuing the lives of everybody around them. And how dare they? They have to respect me when I drive. And so I was so justified in this. I did not want to let this go. And for those of you, like, if you're getting, especially with anger, what you need to understand with anger is anger normally stems from emotional needs that were not met in childhood, and therefore then you have these expectations of how people should be and how they should behave and what they should do. And if people don't meet your needs and those expectations, you then get angry, right? And I was fully aware of this, but I was still very much justified because it's not safe. Anyway, so this pattern was becoming worse, and so I made a conscious decision that I need to really deal with this, because at the end of the day, if I am the one being triggered, that emotion is in me, and I am attracting this situation to me over and over again. And until I change something inside of me, the way I see things, it's not going to change, right? Well, this is what I talk about all the time. But anyway, so I made a conscious decision, and I said the next time this happens, I'm really gonna deal with this. So there I was, driving on Al Khail, 120 kilometers an hour, I was on the fast lane, and I could see this car just flying, and she was flashing everybody before me, and I was like, right, I made a commitment, I'm gonna stick to this. But the first thing that came was anger, like, how dare she? So then and this is, by the way, I'm doing all of this while I'm driving, right? So that's what I'm saying. If you're not prepared, don't try any of this at home. So the first thing was anger. So then I owned it. I'm like, right, at the end of the day, this emotion is in me. She can drive however she wants, Who am I? She has free will. She can do whatever she wants. So I own that anger. And as soon as I owned it, what came up next was fear. And I started to shake a little bit, and I was actually really terrified. This lady, excuse my language, she was going fucking crazy. She was swaying from side to side, she was beeping me, flashing me, she was going mental, and I could see her like shouting even in the car, like, and I was terrified. I was really scared, but one, I wanted to process this fear, and two, I did not want to be bullied out the way and to submit to fear, right? So, and I was very conscious. I was feeling all of this. I was shaking while I was driving, but at the same time, I was conscious of what I was doing. I don't know if this is making sense. So I was breathing. I use my breath a lot, especially when it comes to fear. So I was breathing through the fear, and in that moment, I started to pray as well. You know, I said, God, please help me. Please keep me safe. I need to process this fear. And also, while I was in the middle of this and processing all of this, I thought to myself, like, if I move over, I'm also enabling that behavior, right? I'm being her enabler. And I kid you not, it just took a few moments of me feeling it. I started to cry, obviously accessing the causal, and in that moment I wasn't analyzing or intellectualizing, I was just feeling. So I had managed to go through the anger and then the fear, and now I was like grieving. And in the middle of all of this, I was actually feeling safe and secure. It sounds strange, especially when I started to pray and at peace. And within a few moments, she actually calmed down and she moved back. And I was in awe. And we were driving like this for a good few moments. I can't remember how long now, but it was a little while. And then after that, she just went off and she turned off another way. But I was in awe of this whole experience. I was terrified, but I made a commitment to really work on this, and I wanted to stick to it. I didn't want to allow fear to get in the way, or my justifications, or whatever it was. I wanted to process this. Anyway, since that day, this has not happened since. And there have been a few occasions where I can see cars like flying into me and flashing people before me, and as soon as they come to me, they back off. And I've just been in awe of this experience. It's been about 2.5 months now, and it's not happened since. But yeah, so I just thought I'd share this experience, just to make it clear that it is possible to feel fear, to feel through and process things in the moment. Obviously, I've had a lot more experience maybe than some of you. I have, also processed a lot of other deep wounds, and I really felt that I could handle this and cope with it. Otherwise, I would have done it maybe, at home. But to me, if the opportunity arises, that is the opportunity. And if you're being triggered, that is the perfect opportunity for you to process your emotions and feel through and go through the layers. Because very often when we go about our day and we go about our life, we suppress or repress, and we always say, oh, I'll deal with it later, and then it becomes a lot harder to actually access the emotion and that wound. I hope that makes sense. Sorry for rambling on. Yeah, that's it for today. Bye for now.